The Utah Jazz go 500 on the road trip with a win in San Antonio, spurred on by two rookies, Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski. We're talking about it next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Did you get that?
What?
Spurred on by...
Don't laugh. He wants
David Locke along with Ron Boone after the Utah Jazz beat the San Antonio Spurs 111 to 110 today in an afternoon Saturday game. That was an awful lot of fun. Thank you very much for tuning in to POSTCAST. And the Jazz pulled this one off. And this was really a pretty consistent 48-minute effort. The Jazz have had some real third quarter problems. And one of the kind of comments that Lauri Markkanen made in the postgame in Milwaukee was, we've got to have our moments of darkness shortened. And I thought Will Hardy talked about it as well. Like, hey, in pregame, he said, we're not going to have a moment where I don't call timeout. We're not going to have a moment where the crowd's not going crazy. We just have to figure out how to deal with it. I thought if there's a signature to this game is that they never let it get away from them at any point in time, that they didn't have their moments of darkness were shorter. Maybe it's because it was an afternoon game. But that seemed to be the – okay, that wasn't good. But you laughed. Long road trip.
I laugh at you trying to be funny. But you're absolutely right. The Jazz lose one quarter, and they lost it big, in that third quarter, 37-29 in that quarter. Otherwise, the quarters were all close and obviously the Jazz ended up winning the basketball game. But if they were concerned about the third quarter, it happened again tonight.
All right, let's go backwards on roles of players. We'll get to Lauri and Collin. They were clutch. Collin hit the monster three late. Jordan hit some big free throws. The three vets that should do their job late did exactly that. But let's talk about two of the youngsters. We're going to start with Kyle Filipowski. Finishes the game tonight. But he not only finishes the game tonight, they're really running the secondary offense through him at the elbow, which is what they also do with the use of Walker Kessler. But quite honestly, it just looks so much more natural for Filipowski to be playing with the ball in his hands. And it was really important to how the Jazz won this game tonight. With the 25 minutes Kyle Filipowski played tonight and the role he had kind of conducting the offense.
I'm sorry. I'm watching Jordan Clarkson's daughter down there.
Oh, she's in her Jazz
doing her cheerleading exercises or whatever she was doing down there. But you're absolutely right, David. And going forward, we're going to see a lot more in that. Why? Because he can pass from that high post, and he's a threat to shoot the basketball. Walker Kessler, one heck of a basketball game. But late in the game, when the Jazz needed certain things on the offensive end of the floor, it was Kyle that was on the floor.
Well, and then the other one is that he actually aggressively went to the basket. Like, he took a right-hand dribble, spinning back, which is his move, spinning back over the right shoulder. He went at Victor Wembanyama a few times. So not only did he just pass the basketball, it was a really well-rounded game. And then he hits a corner three on the near side, missed his other one. He had 8 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. We were +7 in the 25 minutes he was on the floor tonight.
He is going to be a part of the rotation enough now that he'll get a chance, I think, to really improve enough to where we're probably going to see a lot more of him. And we've talked about him, the fact that he's 6'11", and he rebounds and can bring the ball up the floor. The passing at that free throw line now is what the Jazz are. They can run a double post with Lauri and Kyle, like they were doing tonight with Lauri going down and screening on the baseline. I mean, there's just so many different things that they can do now with him out there on the floor. The fact that he can shoot the basketball there as well.
You made a great reference in there. In that early in the game, his impact was we played with incredible tempo. We talked about on the broadcast the Spurs 26 in the league in transition defense. Early in this game, the Jazz were out running and not playing in the half court in the way they have been. They were pushing it and playing with a lot more tempo and getting a lot more easy looks. And Filipowski was a part of that when he rebounded, he just brought it up the floor.
He brought it up the floor and can distribute the basketball. I mean, there's such a lot of value to that. And then you heard Collier talk about that as well, being able to just get everyone involved, passing the basketball, but more importantly, pushing it up the floor.
All right, the start for Isaiah Collier tonight. Keontae George was out tonight, did not play. Collier finishes tonight. with 25 minutes himself, 3 of 9, 0 of 6 from 3. He is not a good three-point shooter. That's a concern of his. The Spurs actually started having Victor Wembanyama guard him and not guard him at all, just stay in the middle of the paint. So that's kind of worth keeping an eye on. But he does finish with 7 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Filipowski and Collier combined tonight for 10 assists and just 1 turnover. What was your thought of Collier and his start and how he played and his impact tonight?
I like, again, the speed that he plays with. And I think going forward, his decision-making will get much, much better the more he gets playing time and the more coaches talk to him. And I think even more importantly is the film sessions that he'll be able to watch with coaches now. Is he a fast learner? Will he pick things up to where he's, by, I don't know, January, where he's one of those rotation players that's going to be splitting a lot of time there with Keontae.
Collin Sexton had really warmed up. He didn't start entirely great this year, but he came into this game 6 of his last 11 from 3. He went into his full bag tonight, hit the big 3 late, finished with 23 points to lead the team in scoring. He just can get buckets. He also had to play some point guard tonight, which is hard for him. It often feels like when he plays point guard, you lose all the phrase I often use, he looks like he's buffering. And so trying to do the right thing, and so he loses some of his aggressiveness. I thought he did a nice job of being able to stay there. And maybe also one of the biggest plays of the night is tip in on the rebound.
He turned into 6'9" player.
Right.
Then,
I mean, guy hits a monster 3 and has a tip in late that were big buckets in that game.
Yeah, Collin Sexton is a guy you can rely on. The only time I think he really gets in trouble when he drives in the basket, and then all of a sudden there's nothing there because there's some tall guys there. He can't shoot over the top. Now he's stuck in the 3-second zone, and that happened a couple of times tonight where he had to try to get rid of the basketball. You can always count on that energy with him out there on the floor, whether it's on the defensive side of the ball or the offense, running up and down the floor. That energy level doesn't change.
Victor Wembanyama is something else. 24 points, 16 rebounds, 7 block shots, 6 turnovers. What do you think of him tonight?
That sequence that they had there in that fourth quarter, where I think Victor may have blocked 2 shots and the Jazz kept getting it back. I mean, it was just a highlight reel, and then they end up pushing the ball up the floor, and San Antonio end up scoring. Just let you know that he's there. I mean, and there was a number of times that guys continued to challenge him, and that's the reason he had 7 block shots. I mean, you challenge him.
He also blocked Lowry's 3 from nowhere.
Exactly. I mean, you'd think that he's 3 or 4 feet off of you, and you should be able to get the shot off. Lowry's 7 foot, and he still gets the shot block. It just lets you know how long this guy is and his ability to block shots. That's unreal.
It is unreal. All right, Jazz win tonight. They go to win at a 111-110. How big a deal to go 500 on this road trip?
That's hopefully it jump starts the Jazz. I mean, true enough, this is going to be a season where it's going to be ups and downs. I mean, you're going to win some good ball games, going to lose some, but you want to be hopefully somewhere around 500. And the big thing here, David, is be in the games.
I think
the more games you're in, the more experience you get, and you just become a better basketball player.
I think that's the bigger one, Ron. Like the 37% of possessions in transition by Milwaukee tonight. It wasn't that, okay, you can't win a game that way. There's 0 chance you'll ever win a game, but you also can't stay in a game.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, tonight was only the 3rd time all season the Jazz went to a fourth quarter that was inside 10 points, either positively or negative. Same thing for the Spurs. But those are the minutes that matter. Will Hardy says it all the time. You cannot replicate late game minutes. You can't replicate it in practice. You can't replicate it any other time. So when they're suddenly able to do that, like tonight, and get those late game minutes, it's really incredibly important and helpful to them. And I think we saw, like, Filipowski playing the clutch tonight. We saw, frankly, Jordan Clarkson doesn't have a lot of clutch experience. We're talking about on the broadcast. Last year, he got a lot of clutch time. For the first time in his career, he usually is out of games by the end of the clutch. Collin is not a great free throw shooter late, made those 2 free throws. So these are big moments for these guys in their growth.
Yeah, huge. And going forward, you're going to see these young players playing quite a bit. In the coaches meeting, you heard Coach Will. What did he say? Collier's going to play. He's going to play a lot.
Yeah.
Which means going forward, you're going to be on the floor.
And we've begun to see some guys, Will's willing to give you minutes until you're Sensabaugh's out of the rotation right now. Cody Williams minutes are down to 16 tonight. I mean, Cody's doing some things well, but he's struggling. So I think, we're beginning to see some change of that, but then we saw Filipowski get more minutes and Collier get more minutes today. So we're going to kind of see that ebb and flow. All right, pluses tonight, Ron Boone.
Boy.
Got a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. Yeah,
So of the starters, I would go
Marketing.
Lowry, Isaiah, and Collin.
Lowry, Isaiah, and Collin. You're going to leave Kessler out? Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
The next group I would give pluses to would be John Collins, Johnny Juzang, Kyle Filipowski.
Clarkson. You don't think?
Yeah.
Closing minutes.
I hate 5 and 15. I got to be honest with you. It's hard for me to look at 5.
Is that what he was? 5 and 15? Wow. Okay. And plus or minus 11. So we'll
yeah, I can't give a plus to 5 and 15. I don't care how many free throws you made late.
So we got John Collins, Johnny, and Kyle.
Yep. Patty Mills?
No.
Okay. John Collins, Johnny Juzang, Kyle Filipowski, Lowry Markkinen, Isaiah Collier, and Collin Sexton all get pluses. Someone wants my pick for BYU Utah. I haven't watched 1 minute of either of those two teams this year. Well, I watched a little bit of Utah against somebody, and then it was really hard to watch. And I watched BYU come from behind on the plane over the shoulder of somebody on a bus, so I have no idea.
And I root for all Utah teams.
And Idaho teams.
And one Idaho team.
Idaho State.
Yeah, there we go.
Have a great one. The Jazz win it. They go 500 on the road trip. I'll be back with you Monday. Empty the Noggin will be available for you exclusively in the Locked On Jazz newsletter. That is available by going to LockedOnDaily.com and signing up for free for the Locked On Jazz newsletter. Have a great one. Talk to you soon. Thank you very much for tuning in. Adios.